Welcome to the Mindfulness Academy Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Morgan. And on today's show, we have Emily Thomas. Hi, Emily.
Hello, hello. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to meet your listeners. Today's going to be an experience.
It will be a treat.
Buckle up, guys.
Here we go. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about Emily very quickly, and then we're going to do something we don't normally do because it was her idea and I liked it. So here we go. Emily K. Thomas is the creator of Neural Breathing, which empowers high-achieving professionals, celebrity athletes, and artists to unlock their potential through their neuroscience-backed method. As a recognized speaker and founder of Embody LLC, she offers certifications, licensing, and transformative in-home luxury retreats to help clients transition into the next chapter of their lives with confidence, ease, and clarity. And this is where we're going to change it up. So we're going to have Emily lead us in a mindfulness practice. Get us in the mood here. All right, Emily, take it away.
Heck yes. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me, Amy. And I know we're going to get into how we met, but I really appreciate you. And if you're here listening and you are a part of this community, just know that you have been led here today to this experience for a reason. And I have to give you some kudos because there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. There's so many things you could be doing or places you could be, but being here right now is so special and I appreciate your time and I want to make the most of it. So let's just, if you can, if you're driving, obviously don't close your eyes, but if you are here in a place where you can close your eyes and really settle in, I want to walk you through a breath that'll help you calm your nervous system. It's only a minute because again, I want to be on very conscious of your time. So let's just take a moment. I want to start by rubbing your palms together, just building a little bit of heat. And obviously, if you're driving, use discernment here. All right. So rub your palms together. And I want you just to build a little bit of heat, feeling that friction between your palms. I like to do this because it just reminds you of our sense of humanness, of being in the body. Okay, you can let your palms fall, just let them fall to your lap. The humanness meaning like our palms are rubbing together and we are feeling the sacredness of getting our own back, right? So to begin, I want you to just fill up your rib cage full of air and then just let it out with an audible sigh. Ooh, that feels so good. I'm going to put on some music here so that we can actually just let go. But with your eyes closed, wherever you are, I want you to fill up the lower quadrant of your ribcage. So that part kind of by your belly button and a little bit below, just fill up the whole bottom portion of your ribcage with air. Yes, even when you think that it's completely full, fill it up a little bit more. And now exhale at the mouth. This time, I want you to fill up the lower quadrant of your belly and then add a little bit of air in the chest. And then now exhale it out. We're going to do that a few more times. So filling up the belly, filling up the rib cage, the chest, and then letting it go. This time, try and inhale all through the mouth, through the belly, then the chest, and then let it out. Belly, chest, now let it out. Now I'm going to add a little bonus to our neural breathing right now, and that's to add a little bit of more air into the throat. So we're going to start with the belly, then the chest, and then the throat. And then let it out. Continue with that breath. Exactly, just like that. So as you continue with this breath, belly, chest, throat, I ask that you take a moment to really get grounded. that something that you want? Now, this is such a huge question. Sometimes it takes us asking this a few times to get below the surface. Because the first time we ask it, it usually is, oh, I want a new car, I want more money. But I want you to start to think about why you want the car, or why you want the more money, or whatever that surface level answer was. Just try and go a layer deeper. What is it that you really want? Keeping with the breath, belly, chest, throat, let it go. Belly, chest, throat, let it go. Now I want you to think about having that thing that you've just decided on. Really getting clear on that thing, and then sitting in the seat of having it. You're in that space, you're in that identity of actually having it already. Continue with the breath, belly, chest, throat, release. Belly, chest, throat, release, yeah. And where are you now that you have that thing? What are the emotions that you have? What are the experiences that you are having? What does your relationship look like? What does your family look like? Your friends? And the final question is, what do you look like? Not just physically, but internally. What do you have to think? How do you have to act? Who are you now that you have that thing? Belly, chest, throat, let it go. With the breath, you're almost there. Last 2 rounds, belly, chest, throat, let it go. Last one, belly, chest, throat. Hold the air at the top. Before you exhale, just take another sip of air. Now release. As you sit here, now letting go of all the breath, all the exercise that we just did, just allow yourself to recognize that it's done. You've just visualized yourself in that space. It is complete. It is done. And repeat after me. It is done.
It is done.
Yes. Let's take one more deep breath together. So filling the whole body, the whole torso up. Before you let it go, just think of something that you're so grateful for. Take another sip of air. And release. Just bringing some life back into your fingers. Allowing yourself to come back to this space. Yes, it is done.
Wow.
Wow.
I've never had that vision before. That was powerful.
Really? Oh, what did you
Mhm.
have? Come in. I'm excited to hear.
It's gather around the campfire time, ladies.
Yes. Oh, if you're
Um,
willing, you don't have to. Sometimes they're
no,
pretty private.
well, it was, and I love the question, what's below the want, and how do you feel when you're in that moment? And so my vision was around growing my business, Good Aim Communications, and for me, it's not about like the money or the ego or things like that. The underneath all of it, the word that kept coming to me was connection. And it was
Mm,
connection with one another in the company, but also being connected to something bigger, that
mm.
we are stronger than the sum of our parts. And I kept getting goosebumps just thinking about that and being
I
in the
just got
moment.
goosebumps. I don't know if you can see. Like,
Ooh,
seriously.
goosebumps. Yes, I
Yeah.
can. But that's powerful to think about
Mm.
because, you can set all kinds of goals. I've been doing that as we're ending one year and entering the next. What's happened this past year and what do we want to achieve next year? But what's going to sustain that vision is that word. So I'm going to take that with me into this next year. I always have a word, and I think it is sponsored by Emily Thomas. Thank you for that so much. And I love the feeling. When I was in this moment envisioning it, I felt the word kept coming to me of grounded. I felt so peaceful.
Mm. Yeah.
Felt
And
good.
that's invaluable. I mean, can you put a price tag on what that feeling is? Like it's in today's world, there's so many things working against us to make us feel less grounded, right? So anywhere from like social media to the fast-paced life of fast food, of all the things, like it's just so prevalent. And so it's important for us to really ground in order to do this work you're here to do. Anything you're doing in your lifetime is important to give presence to. It's important to make sure that it's intentional and that groundedness is like the foundation of it.
Absolutely. That's where
Yeah.
your true power
Thank you for
is.
sharing that. I'm so glad you felt willing.
Yeah, I loved it. I was curious what yours was. Do you have one
Yes.
that kind of keeps repeating, or is this a lock and key diary situation?
For me, yeah, when I'm holding the space, it's more of like creating the environment and like creating the safety experience for you guys. Um, but when I go through these, it's also like I get an effect from you, like I can feel emotion really fast. I can feel the goosebumps. I can feel when there's something someone's moving through. A lot of times, I would say 9 times out of 10, like when I'm doing the neural breath work for somebody, holding the space for them, I can feel when they're moving through something or they have some tension or a release about to happen. And that, a lot of times looks like crying, it can look like anger, it can look like these emotions that have been really stored in the body. And that's why neural breath work is so cool because it's not just meditation, it's not just hypno breathing, it's not just breath work, it's not just meditation, but it's this fast track into the subconscious mind. We're literally reprogramming the subconscious mind to help you get to where you want to be. But all of that would not work if you didn't actually go into the first fundamental layer, which is what do you really want? So that's why these in-home retreats are so cool, because they are very intimate. They're in their own home. And that's why I designed it that way. Um, because instead of it being in a social place, people's walls actually crumble down where they're like in their own home. They already feel safe. So it's like one less barrier that I have to fight. And they're with their best friend or their partner, or sometimes alone in these retreats. So it's a very intimate experience that can actually have profound effects and very effective effects very fast. So I'm all about like, how do we cut through the noise and accelerate the process? And this is a process that I've fine-tuned over the last 5 years. And I actually have worked with physicians to help me actually measure and like look at things in a way that's going to be really attractive to 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 anybody, right? Like people I know that they don't say that to do that in a business world, but to like professional athletes, for lawyers, for C-suite, for somebody who's a stay-at-home mom that's moving through a big transition, or somebody who wants to make a big decision about, their marriage, like those types of things. Like it's pretty universal, but the commonality is that people are needing to step into a new identity to make these changes. So I help them understand what they want and then step into that identity. So another branch of my business is also personal branding, because it's kind of like been this natural progression where people have done this work and then said, oh, now I really want to build a business because I'm stepping into this new person. And so now I've built out that kind of arm of the business where I'm helping people stand in their power and develop their website, develop their social, because ultimately that's how you are stepping in and showing people your new identity. Like you're really, really activating it. So It's complementary and it's super fun to watch.
Oh my goodness. This is rich already. And you brought up two things that I really am excited to talk about today. Two main topics: safety and what do we really want. So we will delve into that, folks, as we go along. I think that those are two main topics for today. So let's delve in to the beginning part, how we met. We just need to give Tawny Thomas like big airwave hugs. We love this woman. Tawny, I know you're listening. We love you.
Yeah,
She is spectacular. So she married your cousin,
she's the best.
right? Or your cousin, your uncle,
Yep. hmm
cousin or uncle?
No, my cousin. My
Your
cousin.
cousin,
Yeah.
cousin. Yes. Okay. And he's one lucky duck. All right, Roger, you're one lucky duck. She's so wonderful. And I'm so
Yeah,
glad that she
Roger,
connected
they're
us.
both lucky. They
They
both
are.
scored.
They're
But that's
incredibly
just goes
sweet
to show when you
together.
meet somebody that's a good match for you, like you literally bring out the best in each other, and I feel like they do that. They do that for each other. And yeah, so thanks, Tawny. Thanks for introducing us. And we've had some really fruitful and beautiful conversations already. And when I first met you, I'm always like an active person. You can probably tell, like I like have high energy. And when I first met you, I was like, let's hop on a call. And it was like immediately. And I was like, I gotta go for a walk because I get my stream of consciousness on a walk. So I was just talking your ear off, sharing my story. And yeah, it's kind of where it started.
It is where it started. I remember thinking when we were first talking, I was like, she's breathing pretty hard. She must be doing something here. You're like, I gotta move.
Oh,
I love it. I love it.
that's so
Um,
funny.
I I believe you're a Cali girl. Is that where you grew up? You're born and raised California girl?
Correct.
Yes.
Yep, yep.
So for the
Proud of
Midwest,
it.
you're proud of it. All right. Okay. I just have to know. So for our Midwestern listeners, which Indianapolis here in the heart of the
Yes.
Midwest, what does that mean to be raised in California? Like, I have all these things in my mind, like, all right, you're going to go to the beach every day. You're definitely going to surfboard. You're definitely going to be like, super skinny and wearing these cute bikinis. And your hair's all tousled and you're just adorable all the time. Is that kind of the deal? Or like, paint it for me. What does it mean to be raised in California?
Okay, so there's a few ways to approach this question. The first is like, yeah, it is kind of real.
Okay.
I have a friend. I was just speaking to her yesterday, and she just moved out from the East Coast. So she's born and raised New Yorker, like fast paced, like kills it in her business. Um, and so she wanted to slow down a little bit. And she says, we're on this 5 a.m. accountability group together. And she was just like, we asked the question, like, why did you join this group? And she's like, because I need to get back into my New York mode because it's too chill out here. So she's like been seeing, yeah, just a different type of lifestyle, which is, I don't think one is better than the other, but I think it's definitely notable that it's relaxing here, especially in Southern California. I'm in San Diego, so yeah, I love it. It's a good quality of life for sure. It's expensive though.
Yes, I do know that. I'm curious what it means. What do you do when you're being so relaxed? Is it all about the beach? I mean, what do people do?
Yeah, it's beachy. It's definitely like we go to the beach all the time, surf, we hang out outside, we're very active. We eat well. I mean, I think we do. Most of us do. And
Fresh
very
fruits
active.
and
I think pickleball
veggies.
is like a big thing here. So we've been doing,
Yeah, just fresh veggies and
yeah,
fruits,
we've
I'm
been
sure,
playing
probably
pickleball a
more
lot.
around the year than we have here in the Midwest. So that probably helps.
Yes. Yeah, probably. But yeah, that's the lifestyle.
Okay, well, thank you for a little vignette there. Sounds like my my stereotype kind of played out, and it's lovely. I like to think of people relaxing somewhere nice. That's great. Let's talk a little bit about a
Come
little bit.
visit.
Yeah, I would love to. Okay, there are witnesses. I have been invited. Let's talk a little bit about your work and educational background. You definitely have gotten a lot of licensing and accreditation and all of that. What all are you doing?
So, what's interesting is that this is very uncharted territory. This is not what I expected. I was always a very type A type person where um, I just had, a way of living that I thought was going to play out, like I was going to get the career path. I was going to be, an executive by 28, like all of those things, right? And I was really on that trajectory until, do you want me to get into my story now, or do you want me to just talk about the background?
You can roll with it.
Up to
Let's
you.
hear. Let's hear. It's all one big ball of wax.
Okay.
So what happened?
Yeah, it is. Okay, perfect. So basically, I was in the medical. I was in the medical capital equipment sales for about 10 years, and um, it was quite interesting, actually. I have always been told, my dad always told me, Emily, you can do whatever you put your mind to. You can do anything you put your mind to. And it was such a beautiful mantra that really stuck with me. So even as like a child, I had no right and no way to learn to make the competitive basketball team or the tennis team or the competitive dance team or all of these things that I just wasn't trained in. But I always had that mantra in my head, like Emily can do whatever she puts her mind to. So I would try it out and I would go for it. And I would do whatever it took to actually make it. And I made him. I would make everything. And I would get all of the job interviews I ever interviewed for, like all the things, because it was operating from that mantra of I can do anything I put my mind to. Now, skip to early adulthood when I was in the medical field and I was excelling really fast. I was in a very male dominated profession. And I was working with physicians like 12 hours a day in, surgeries, in operating centers, all these places. And I just felt like something was missing. I just felt really disconnected and I didn't know why. And I felt really guilty for feeling that way because I had all of the stuff, all of the things. I had the cars, I had the apartment on the beach in Santa Monica. I had um, a very wealthy boyfriend at the time who was proposing to me, like all these different things. On paper, I was dialed, right? But I was feeling so unsatisfied and I fell into a really like deep depression and I felt so guilty about it. So I didn't share it with anybody. It led to an eating disorder. It led to me just being like a recluse and like really not knowing who I was anymore. Because ultimately I had run my life like Emily can do anything she puts her mind to. And it was the point of proving it that I can do anything I put my mind to. But I never stopped to ask myself, like, what do I really want to do? So when I actually asked myself that question, it was paralyzing. It was so scary that I just kept grinding. I was like, forget it. Like, there's no time for that. That's fluffy. Until one day I was like, I can't live like this anymore. I am not sleeping. I am not eating properly. I am abusing my body because I felt so out of control. So I was just, not eating and I was not sleeping and pushing myself to the limit because I think subconsciously I was like, something has to give. And I didn't know what that was. So it was like the sense of control, right? I'm realizing this retrospectively. Like in the moment, I had no idea. And so I asked for a sign and I was like, you know what? Like, please, God, help me, like something, like help me, give me something and make it extremely obvious. Like I'm blind to everything else. So you have to be blatantly clear. Please give me a sign. So I'm, walking down the street, like I asked for a sign in the morning and I forgot about it. Right. And then all of a sudden, my best friend calls me and she goes, you need to come with me to this event tonight. And she's like, didn't give much explanation about it or anything, but she's like, just come, please. Like, I have 2 tickets, like, just come. So I went, and this was the sign that I got. It was teaching me the modality of breathing again. And that experience, I had a cathartic type of moment where I came back. Like Emily was there, the real Emily that wasn't hiding, that wasn't cloudy, that wasn't foggy in the head. I was truly connected again. Like you said, that word connected, it's really about connecting to source. It's connecting to God. It's connecting to self. It's connecting to others. And that was so foreign to me because I hadn't experienced it in so long that I didn't know what to do with it. So I went home, went back to my life, and decided, okay, life is going to be better. I figured out a modality that I need if I need it, but I kind of just like got back to the grind again. Until one day I was sitting in my car. I was actually outside of Cottage Hospital in Santa Barbara. I was doing an e-bus experience, which is a procedure with a pulmonologist. And I basically, it's like ultrasound for the lungs. I'm looking at the lungs, right? And which is so ironic. But I was up in the car. I forgot a device that I was actually going to use for the procedure. So I went out to the car and I received a phone call. And this phone call was from my dad. And he was telling me that my grandfather was passing away. And I remember this so well because I was taking life for granted. I was like, the answers were right in front of my face, right? I had a 12-year-old patient on the table that I was supporting in this procedure. I was numb to it because our minds, like as humans, we just get used to these things that are like so bizarre, right? But in that moment, I was like, wow, like this child is having trouble breathing. And that's the tool I need to use to help me feel better. And then I have life at its fragility, like my grandfather, the rock in our family, you know, is passing. And it's just like, it's this moment of, whoa, wake up, Emily, wake up. So right there in that moment, obviously there were tears because it was just really startling for me to hear that about my grandfather. But I started to breathe. I started to do that breath work again. And I started to come back again. So I cleaned myself up, went into the procedure, and I still did my job and I did it well. But I did it differently because I remembered the grounding point of life and time and my breath are tools that help me live fully, right? Like the breath and valuing my time and like being present and being in that moment is so important. And so I started to implement the breath back into my day to day. And from that moment forward, I actually committed to doing a 2-minute breath work every single day. And it was my own social, like personal experiment that I did that was in 2013. So it's been over 10 years. So like really practicing this breath and then experimenting with the changes that have happened in my life as a result. And so I started to implement this and I started to come back to life. And what happened is my boyfriend at the time didn't like that so much. He liked the subservient, very, you know, doesn't say anything she needs to say, like just kind of do whatever. And so I started to breathe, stick to my self-discipline, and I did, and I started to feel better. But then I started to see that things were starting to fall away that were misaligned. My boyfriend at the time was very started to turn a little bit abusive and started to turn me first mentally and then physically abusive. And I again was like, how did this even happen to me? Like, I'm a very strong woman. Like, this is not Emily. And then I remember a specific instance, and I think I told you this before, but like it had gotten so escalated and bad at the point where I was ready to say goodbye to him. And the evening ended up being very just, it was just really bad. And I was in his bathroom. I was hiding from him. I was underneath the cabinet and he was just banging on doors, like screaming for me, trying to like kill me. Like he was going to do something to me. I don't know. Like, I don't even want to imagine it, but like it would have been really bad. So in that moment, I asked myself, and these are the tools that like I genuinely thought I was not going to make it out alive that night. So I started breathing. I started doing this because I didn't have anything else. I didn't know what else to do. I started doing the breath that I had practiced and experiencing the coming back into my body, getting the courage, being grounded, being whole, and being okay with what was going to happen and standing in my power regardless. I made it out alive, obviously. But I think the small efforts that I had done every day prepared me for that very moment, to be able to use that as a tool when things got bad. So it's like an athlete training. Like you don't just wake up Michael Jordan. You have to wait, you have to really practice at it. You have to experience it. You have to really be diligent and have that self-discipline. And the self-discipline helped me build my confidence. The breath work helped me come back to myself. The neural breath work that I've developed over the years and that I train people on today is that combination of hypnotherapy. It's the combination of the visualization, the breath work, and using the somatic tools to really feel in the body and activate that next identity. So in that evening when I was like hiding in the bathroom underneath the cabinet, it was more like what is the identity? I thought of like who I was that was out of the home and safe and in another situation, right? And so I really embodied her. And that's truly what helped me get out of there safe, communicate with him in a way that allowed me not to get hurt. And so that embodiment is so important because it allows us to step out of our problems and into another way of being that supports us in being where we're more aligned, right? So yeah, and then I just from that moment forward, I started embracing the work, starting to learn more about it, really go into, the speaking in neuroscientists, learning in the rabbit hole of like Joe Dispenza, a bunch of different, physicians, and learning what the modalities were, like, why are these so fascinating? What's going on in the brain? Like, what's going on in the body? Like really understanding the science about it. And then that really cemented things for me, So then I started working with other people and teaching other people or doing this work on them and seeing the tremendous results with them fast. And so I said, there's something to this, but it's always been so sacred to me because it really did help me through those moments that I was a little afraid and timid to like put it out there in the world. Even telling you the story today is like very, I don't know, it's not something I normally share, but it's my story and it's what led me here. And I don't say this to, I don't want anybody, I'm not a victim. I'm not like I don't want anybody's like, comfort from me saying this. It's truly to maybe somebody else is going through some form of something similar. And maybe you can see yourself in my story and see that there is a way out of it. And, yeah, because there is. You're powerful. You are capable, and you are so worthy of anything that you want. And I want you to know that. Like, you are truly capable of all of your dreams. I did it. And that's what like all the accolades, all the credentials, all of that aside, truly like what makes me credentialed enough is that I have done it. I have done it. Like I have said the thing, I've done the thing, and I've moved into a different chapter. So for people who want to step into another big leap or chapter of their life, like I know how to help you do it. I'm not just going to read from a textbook. I can genuinely get you there. So that's my story.
Feel like I need to take a few deep breaths after that. That's powerful.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm humbled that you would share your story and grateful that you feel the safety to share that. And I hope that this is something that can be shared with other women who have struggled with something similar or right in the midst of it, like you said. I thought it was really powerful that you had that moment, that flash of clarity, the question of like, how did I get here? I'm
Mhm.
a strong woman, I don't think anybody is a little girl and thinks they're gonna wake up um
Yeah.
cowering in a corner afraid. That's just not how we envision ourselves. And I think getting back to the core of who we are, I could see yourself in your own eyes,
Mm.
you forming that person back inside your brain, and that was really powerful. I also love how you are owning your story. There are always parts
Yeah.
to our story that feel um, less polished, right? The things that we don't share with everybody.
Right.
And there is a lot of power in owning it, because then it doesn't have power over us. It can be a gift to others. And so I thank you for sharing that very
You know what's
much.
interesting is like as I'm saying this story, I actually started to get a little scared because I'm afraid like I could feel the sense coming back of like, what if he listens to this? Like, what if like he comes after me? Like that kind of thing. And I remember like I just want anybody who's going through anything similar to know that it- you can make it out okay. Like everything is these people like you're capable, right? Um I think that there's so many fears that we still have. So like when I've made it through the other side, like I'm also still considerate, and I feel like these emotions are here so that I can have these experiences and like really empathize and feel things for other people as well. Um, because again, like you said, like like I was the strong one. Like I would have. I can't believe I got in that situation. But then I think it had to happen so that I can now see that a lot of times it's not us, like there's parts of us that we get stuck in and that we do have the power to move out of it if we want to. And this is the path. There could be other paths to help you, but like this is one path that worked for me and maybe it'll work for you. So it's not the only path, I will say. There's many paths, but this is one that's been really profound in my healing and a lot of the healing that I've worked with other people on.
I think it's very powerful when profound life experiences have happened that have birthed a, a path for someone, a career path in particular. Because, like you said, you're not just reading from a book. Sure, you've read from plenty of books. I'm very
Yes.
confident of that. However, there's another layer, a lot more layers, and life experience is incredibly valuable when you're working with a coach and an advisor. So I think mm, that's where the rich stuff happens. And that empathy that you're talking about, I could even tell in the post discussion here, just there's still parts that are fresh, and that makes you real. That makes you human, like we were in that moment at the beginning, rubbing our hands. This path has birthed a lot for you, it seems like. You wear a lot of hats. You have been prolific in the things that you have done out of this, and perhaps because of this. I would love to hear a little bit more about where you're focusing your attention right now and what is giving you the most joy in all of this.
Oh my goodness, such a good question. I really, really love the in-home retreats because they are a 4-hour intensive. Um, it's like having half of a year of coaching into 4 hours. Um, we're also dang busy that it's not, I mean, it's a luxury really to have time to go on retreats and do all that kind of stuff. But if you go into an experience knowing that you're going to have a result, knowing that you're going to have clarity and perhaps even a bonding experience with your friends, your partners, whoever you invite, it's just so profound. And hosting those is really giving me so much joy. And then the other thing is also training people, like getting people certified in my neural breathing institute is such a cool thing too, because like we talked about, this is my story. This is how I can empathize with people. But when I expand with other people that are working with me, like we have other practitioners, they have their own stories, they have their own ways to relate to you. So it might be, somebody who's been in the medical profession. I have a physician that like is just so great to work with people on addiction, like that kind of thing. So they all have their areas of expertise that like they can bring to the table with the neuro breathing certification. So I'm loving both of those because they work hand in hand to provide like just an exceptional experience for anyone.
Amazing. I love where the joy is coming from. And it's really interesting to think about how your coaching can be done in 4 hours. That sounds like that would be pretty intense. That would be pretty
Yeah.
intense, but powerful. I'm curious. We've talked about kind of your typical client. Sounds like it can be a lot of folks, but you tend to maybe work with business executives, professional athletes. Um,
I work with
any
go-getters. There's
go
like the
get there
common
we
thread.
go.
The common thread are really like people go-getters who have like woken up and they're like, wait a minute, like this has all been great, but I want something different now. So it could be somebody that has built this really successful career, and it might look irresponsible to change things up, or it might feel really sticky. So we work on that. We help you identify what you actually want, because if you just were to switch careers and look reckless, then, you know, aimlessly trying to throw spaghetti at the wall, you're going to be pretty frustrated. Your spirit's going to hinder, you're going to not feel so good about it. So we try to eliminate a lot of that friction by just cutting through the noise, identifying what really does feel good. And sometimes it takes a little bit of experimenting, trying on the different, I like to use the analogy of trying on different outfits. Like today we're going to try this one on and then this one on, and then we're going to meet back in a week and decide like, okay, what is the direction we're heading in? But really having a common thread and having a really deep connection to each other and having someone accountable with you walking that path, to really identify the next steps, so that so KPI oriented. Obviously, that's like the old career path, but so KPI oriented. And I think a lot of people miss the mark on this in the coaching world, where there's nobody really holding themselves accountable for like you're paying a lot of money for coaching, but at the end of the day, like they don't hold, like if you don't really have a lot of results that you have to hit with that person, right? But for me, like I have been burned in the past by a bunch of investments and coaches that I've worked with. And so I wanted to switch that around and make the customer feel like no matter what happens, we're figuring out what the end result looks like for you, and we're going to get there, you know? So I'm very results oriented, very milestone oriented. And so everything that we do is to keep us on track with the fluidity of experimenting, right? So that's how we kind of to quicken the process, like cement the process into a shorter time period. So it's like a quicker investment, less like you're making decisions faster, you're stepping into that leader, you're stepping into that identity faster. So like things obviously as a result happen faster. Your relationships change, your friendships, you bring in more money quickly. Like it's a bunch of different things happen if you can actually make decisions faster. But you need someone to help you facilitate the decision-making process from a very grounded place. So that's what we do in the neural breathing.
All right. So one major thing that we talked about at the beginning, we talked about the safety as a topic, which was deep. Now the second topic, I feel like we're kind of at the skirt of it. So how do you coach folks to find out what they want? Right? I mean, you and I, when we first spoke, we talked about how both of our dads um gave us the same mantra, literally the same thing every single week. My dad would
Yeah.
say, Amy, what do you want to do with your life? I remember being in 7th grade and saying, I don't know. And he'd say, well, you can do anything you want, you just need to pick something. And it was just all the time. And I think I had kind of a similar sort of path in that I kept doing all these things and saying, well, I could win at that and I could do that and I could be this. And
Mhm.
but then one day I woke up and said, but what I really want, not just
Right.
what sort of thing do I want to check off a list because I felt a challenge. Um, How do you really, really figure out what you want? It's a tall order.
Honestly, it's really not that hard.
Okay.
It's neural breathing. It's
Okay.
as simple as that. I don't do it, you do it. And I coach you how to bring that forward. So it's really in the experience of it that it kind of, the breath cracks you open. It helps you recognize what's important. And the follow up is what helps us unpack what came in, what you want to do. So it really does have that ability to cut through the BS, the stuff, and help you really see, oh, wow, like there's so much, I'm so much more clear now. You know what I mean? So I do that in a number of ways, but truly it's the breath. And then we unpack it together in a particular format that I've designed. And then we stick to the plan. So we identify, then we design the path, and then we do the actions. And that's the accountability. And then we start to document the process. So as you start to shift the way that you're thinking, operating, obviously the world around you will start to shift. So that's the documenting reward process. So we'll start to see what's working and what's not working. So it's really this checks and balances and making sure that you're witnessing the momentum that you're getting, right? A lot of times we don't actually take record of what we're doing daily. You know, how many of us are like, oh, there's just no time. Like, I don't even know who I called today, all that kind of stuff. But the moment that you actually sit down and say, okay, how did I spend my time today? Was this intentional? Did I do this properly? Like time expands. You know what I mean? I mean, I have two young kids, and so I have to be so intentional with my time. And believe me, I have a lot of stuff going on. You probably too, and you watching as well. And so it's really identifying how you want to allocate your time. But that's why I love this work so much is that you don't have to spend, 2 hours doing it. It can be 5 minutes. It can also be, I have this group called the breathing room. Like, do you need some breathing room? So it's a group that it's an accountability group for breathing, and it's really quick. But whoever doesn't show up, who doesn't do the work that they said they're going to do, they get kicked out. But if you do the work, you get rewarded. So it's like this gamification of actually showing up and celebrating each other. And there's some stakes at hand if you actually don't do it, because we're playing the big game here. And all the people that I work with are kind of that way too. Like we want to win. The athletes I work with want to win. Like that's their goal. So that's what I want to help other people do as well. And I win in the process. If you win, I win.
Oh, that's a great quote. Love that. Love that. I want to talk a little bit more about mindfulness in particular. All right. So I know that you focus in on breath work. However, I always like to hear the definition of our guests, how they define mindfulness. How would you define it, Emily?
That's a really good question. I think there's so many legs to that. I think we can unpack that for hours, but I think mindfulness in general is really being present. And I think it's being present in a couple different facets, like the body, with the people around you, with your work, with your intentionality of your time, and really being in this human experience. I believe that we are here, we chose to be here, and like it is a miracle that we're alive. I mean, look at all the things that worked against us to actually become an embryo. You know what I mean? So many aspects of our life are so important to recognize. And if we live with that intentionality and that gratitude and that sense of awareness, I believe that that is mindfulness.
Um, in our team meeting this week at Good Aim, I was leading a bit of a discussion, and we got off on a topic of just kind of some thankfulness, and some of that extended to those who came before us, our ancestors and all that they endured, and the miracle it is that we are here in this moment. How many things had to happen that
Right.
you and I are sitting having this discussion right now. And there's a lot of humility for me and that, and a lot of like tear up gratefulness for all the folks who came before me and all the things they had to overcome. So it's a
Mm.
very cool thing to think about. Very,
Yeah,
very
I think it's
cool.
appropriate too because we're leading up into Thanksgiving, and it's my favorite holiday of the year for that reason. Really looking at what we have, how we're so fortunate, and even just to have the ability to breathe. So like that's like taking me back to that moment when I was sitting in the car and I got the call about my grandfather. It's like the the gift of breath. That child couldn't breathe, my grandfather couldn't breathe because he was dying. Like there's just like the gift of something that's free in the body to take air in, to nourish the body. And I was taking it for granted. I mean, that's I think one of the things, like this is something like you don't have to hire me to learn how to breathe. Like you can breathe, right? And I suggest that you do. Like I suggest that you listen back to the beginning of this conversation and really just go through that again. Like really just let your body feel the breath. If you're going to do anything today, let that happen. I think it's just I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be living, especially right now, and having this conversation with you and sharing this information and my story with your listeners. I think if you're listening, like, I'm grateful for you. Thank you.
So sweet. I would love to hear, you obviously have built up a practice of your own, and it's always insightful to hear how folks who are coaching or leading others in mindfulness practices, what they're doing to fill their own cup. That is incredibly critical, for your own health and wellness, and what you're able to then pass on to others. So it needs a rootedness, right? So let's talk a little bit about kind of your routine. You've already kind of talked a smidge about it, which seems pretty intense. The 5 a.m. club, the breathing club, like there's some things going on, but I want to hear more about it. And if you are, it sounds like a morning person, kind of what that looks like, kind of start the day grounded. What kind of routine are you
I am not a
using?
morning person, for the record. This is I walk the walk, right? I walk the talk, whatever the phrase is. I wanted to this year I wanted to step into another level of identity, which is a motivational speaker, right? So that required me to change my patterns, to really look at myself and decide how would that person act? How would that person get up? How would she operate? And I got my answer. And she got up at 4:30 and she planned her day. She got on this call. She held her meetings. She's very organized with her time. And this accountability group that I'm a part of is, and I will, like, one other thing I have to say is that I have an incredible partner. My husband is he's my biggest cheerleader. He's my partner in crime. Like, he just truly carries a lot of the weight. So I have to just like say, I am so, so fortunate in that way. I know a lot of people don't have that ability. So I just have to, give kudos to him because he does pick the kids if I have something like this happening, like a lot of stuff going on. We work really well as a team. So that helps. Um, but as far as my schedule goes, and I'm a part of this morning group at 5 a.m. and it's not my group, it's actually a group that I pay to be a part of. So, you know, not sponsored by them or anything, but like this his name is Jarvis, and he does this morning hero. And the way that he's outlined the day is really cool. And shout out to him. He calls it the Heroes Morning. So basically, it's the acronym HEROES. So H is health. So like, what are you going to do to move the body? Um, E is eating. R is reading. So like, what are you going to read? Like a little bit today. Like, what type of thing are you read? O is, what is the one thing that you're going to do today? And so it's really cool because it like narrows that in. And then the S is, how are you going to spread joy? So it's really about giving back and like, how can you make somebody happy today? And I actually developed something 2 years ago, and his formula reminded me of it, which is why I actually brought it back from the archives. And I have a workbook that kind of, it's very different. It's than his, but similar in the way that it maps out your day and really helps you. I call it the ripple of kindness, like really looking at how can you support others in your growth? How can you teach what you know? One of Stephen Bartlett is one of my favorite podcasters, and he talks about really becoming an expert in anything requires you to learn it, study it, and then teach it. So if you can practice that tool of actually learning something new and teaching it to your audience, to your kids, something like that's part of my process that I think is really important because it allows you to really use your cognitive ability, but then also serve others in a way that gives value. You're always learning. If you want exponential growth, try that.
Ooh, that is amazing. Um, there's an author I was reading about his work, and he does savers, which is a
Oh,
similar concept, and he mixes in the Via's visualization, but the rest are fairly similar. But it's a powerful morning to do that. It takes a commitment though. It's a definite time commitment. And so waking up
I
at
know I'm pretty
4:30 is,
tired by noon. I'm like, oh, not time.
I
But
bet. I bet that makes for a long day, especially with
yeah,
two littles.
yeah.
I was wondering, trying to think where I want to take us next. You've already led us in a pretty amazing practice, and if I love that it's at the beginning, because then if folks really wanted to dig in again, would they just do it again and kind of revisit what might come up? Like, how long should you wait in between the two? Let's unpack that just a smidge before we move on.
There's really no contraindications for doing too much breath work. So the only thing I will say is if you're pregnant, or if you have any medical issues or cardiac issues, I would just consult a physician before you do it. And this is not to be replaced by like any type of medication or anything like that. It, it's like going to the gym. It's really, really important that you solidify a practice for yourself. The retreats are an intensive. So it is more breathing, more experiencing, more movement than these typical breathing exercises. I have an application, so an app,
Mhm.
that I do have different scenarios of like for gut health or for clarity to manage overwhelm, like different scenarios. So it's kind of cool because you can kind of plug it in and say like, ooh, what do I actually want to work through today? What do I want to adjust? And then you can kind of do that neural breath work that associates with that. Um, but
And
yes, I think a
what's
good
that app?
starting point.
Before you move on, what's the app called?
My app is called Embody Experience. So you remember how we talked about embodying the identity? So
Hmm.
this is like the experience of embodying that. So it's really about bringing the app has a bunch of different things in it. It has audios, it has exercises, like physical exercises, because I believe that you can actually use that identity work to move it into the body. Like really, when you're in, for instance, that sounds kind of funny. When you're in a plank pose or when you're in, a challenging position, that's when you start to watch the fluctuations of the mind happen. That's when your mind is telling you, no, 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 don't do this, don't do this. So what happens is you can actually create that friction on purpose, exercise it, tell yourself, oh no, this is okay. I'm stepping into this identity. That's when you start to really fine tune and practice and embody that. So that when you're in the real world, so like the app or those experiences are kind of a microcosm of what you do outside.
Love that.
Mhm.
I'd like to talk. You have you founded a couple companies, right? You have a
Yeah.
lot of different things going on. I'm wondering if you would share maybe two or three things that you wish you knew sooner as a founder.
Good question. I think my biggest lesson in the past 2 years has been trusting my gut. I outsourced my power If you're an entrepreneur or a founder or anything, you will know that your mind is tested, your spirit is tested all the time because you have all these people, especially with social media, you're comparing yourself constantly. And, it's just sometimes you feel defeated. You're like, why am I not farther along? Like, why are they killing it? Why are they making $2 million a month? And so the easiest thing to do in that point is say, oh, well, they know better than me. Maybe I'll hire them. And that really wasn't the solution for me in a couple of scenarios, because I was just expecting them to do the work for me. So the big takeaway here is do the work yourself, use discernment, hire the right people that really feel good for you, and then do your due diligence. Like when anyone hires me, for instance, I pretend like it's a job interview. I basically say, these are the people that have worked with me. Here are their numbers. Call them. You know what I mean? Like there's a reference list here. Don't just, because anyone can put a testimonial and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, but like speaking with real people, getting references, I think that's another thing. And then I would say the other piece that I think would be a really big lesson for me is that there's magic in simplicity. I think we try to overcomplicate. I try to overcomplicate. Like I had my personal brand, I have Embody, I have Ingrid Lead, I have all these different things. I had Sundari Swim, I have all these different things. And it was really a mask for me hiding and like trying to prove that I was worthy. And then this year I was like, you know what? Like, no, I'm just going to stick with neural breathing because that's really the thing that got me into myself again. Like just stick with something that really is embodied in you and your experience in this lifetime. Maybe it's your art, maybe it's your writing, maybe it's your communication skills, but just stick with something that really resonates for you. Not because it's going to make you a lot of money, because when you actually do the thing that is aligned for you, people can feel that and then it will, as a byproduct, make you a lot of money. But if you go after it as it has to be, this process to make me this much money and that kind of thing, then don't get me wrong, there is a business side of this too, that it's very important about the strategy, about the structure and organization part. But start with the thing that you really do resonate with, and what makes you tick. And maybe you'll need to do some neural breathing to get there to understand what that actually is. And I would say the third thing is speed. The faster you can do things, the faster you can make money. The faster you realize your mistakes, the faster you let go of things that aren't aligned. Even if you like, it's so hard as entrepreneurs because you create this thing and it's so connected to your soul and like so connected to all of your past and all this stuff, but then like you're holding on to it for no reason. It's not really serving you. It's not helping. So I think cutting ties, moving fast, and adapting. AI is going to be a huge piece of our future. And I think the faster you can get on board with that and utilize it as a tool, as a partner in your business, the faster you can actually stay up with the times.
Yeah. Yeah. Great lessons. Great lessons. I will say, over the course of, at this point, the 12 years that I've run Good Aim Communications, I've been learning that gentle balance between data-driven decisions and
Hmm.
trusting my gut, because sometimes the data will speak and it's
Yeah.
clear and it's like, yep, that's what I thought. And then there are times where the data will speak, but there's something intangible that and you don't know how you know. So it's navigating that, and being
It's
rooted
okay.
in the core of who you are is just so important, to be able to, yeah, really trust that gut. Um, I'm wondering if you would tell us about what energetic alignment is. Do you want to talk a little
Yes,
bit
it's
about what
kind
that
of,
is?
yeah, it's a pretty, well, there's a lot to it. Energetic alignment is really ties into quantum mechanics, and looking
Wait, wait, wait,
at
wait, wait. What's quantum mechanics? Let's talk about
it's
that
looking
first.
it's looking at the world from a vibration perspective. that everything down to the tiniest atom, when you look under a microscope, a very powerful microscope, is still moving, it's vibrating. It's not completely in a solid matter. So noticing that, and like there's been studies that talk about the observer effect and really looking at ways to mold your future based off of vibration patterns. So this is a whole rabbit hole type, but
I'm seeing that. Woo!
the truth of the matter is that if you actually, like, simple terms, like as if I'm explaining it to my daughter, the way that you are, the way that you operate, and the way that you are being in the world will match other things of that vibration. So if you're operating from a place of abundance, you'll attract abundance. This is just like super kindergarten level. And if you're operating from a place of victimhood, you're going to attract more of that negativity and victimhood. It's just going to continue to compound. Now, that's not meaning that you should put something in a corner and say, oh, I'm not going to grieve today because it's going to make me feel like I'm vibrating low or vibrating differently. It's actually saying the opposite. It's how can you look at each experience in the full spectrum of life, of every single experience and emotion, from a perspective of, I created this. I'm experiencing this moment right now from radical responsibility. What in my current circumstances is allowing this experience to manifest? And then also decide, so do you see how that perspective changes the attitude and the emotional quality of the experience alone? So instead of falling into the place of like, why is this happening to me? How is this? Why am I getting sick? Like, what is going on? Why don't I have money? Like all that stuff. Instead, you're saying, okay, here is a situation and it's quite interesting. I'm not loving this situation. And here's probably why it's happening, because I've been, going to bed late. I've been eating poorly. I have not been communicating well. I haven't been sticking to my morning routine, all that kind of stuff. All of that compounds to create this recipe of your current circumstances. So energetic alignment means what is the goal that you want, right? Like, this is just super simple way to explain it, but like, what is the goal you want? Let's make it super simple. Like, I want to bring in $1 million. I'm going to bring in $1 million. Okay, well, what about your spending habits? What about yourself? What about your environment is not reflecting that same vibration? Because $1 million is a different vibration than $500,000. It's a whole different thing. So if you want to step into that experience of having $1 million, you have to start operating from that so that you're energetically aligning to that thing that you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the neural breath work is a pathway to get you on that freeway. It's like a freeway to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's less about like the mind of trying to force yourself to think differently. It's like you start to vibrate immediately different when you do the experience. So it's like the supercharge of closing that gap.
Interesting. Thank you for unpacking that. It sounds like that would be a whole nother very long discussion to really unpack it,
Yeah.
but that is fascinating. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
I'm wondering if there has been um, maybe a piece of advice that you would give an entrepreneur today, or a go-getter. You can choose it.
I just think, I'm turning 40 on Saturday, and a piece of advice that I recommend to anybody, or just like it's coming in really clearly right now, is it's never too late. Never, ever, ever too late to start. And it's not irresponsible to take a risk on yourself or invest in yourself. What is risky is sitting on your deathbed and not happy about the decisions you made of sticking with a career path that wasn't aligned, or not spending enough time with yourself or your friends or your family, like that kind of thing. I mean, there's so many studies that talk about that, about interviewing people on their deathbed, and like they all have that commonality of saying, yeah, I wish I did things differently.
Yeah.
So it's never too late.
It's never too late. Know what you want.
Do the
And
thing. Get clear on what you want and then go do it. We make it a lot more complicated than it needs to be.
I like that simplicity. We've talked about your high vibe retreats here, these 4-hour powerhouse sort of deals. You have one-on-one trainings with folks,
Yeah.
which sound like that would also be pretty intense and quick. I like the speed that you're talking about as well. Is there anything else in the app? Embody, what was it again?
The Embody experience. Yeah. So, and I might be changing the name to because of legal stuff. Like there's a lot of embodies right now, and I'm talking to an IP attorney. So that's why I was hesitant to say the name because I might be changing it to neural breathing or anchor and lead. So yeah, just go to my website if you're interested because it'll be there still, but it might change the name. But
What's
this
your
is real
website?
business stuff. This is real business stuff. You want the real, real.
I know. We're getting into the real people.
You know, like sometimes I think advice. Okay, so there you go. Like advice, do a IP search, do a trademark search, do these things before you get too far down the line. And then because we dream big, like we know that we're going places and like things that this is going to be a big thing. And you can risk litigation if you have something that is, similar to someone else's work or someone else's name, like that kind of thing. So just make yourself unique. Like do it unique.
Love that. Tell us your website just so folks can learn
Yeah.
all the things.
My website is called Anchor and Lead. Um, I love the name of that because it's really about anchoring into yourself. It's about anchoring into your why. It's about anchoring into what's really important in life and then leading from that place. So leading at work, leading at home, leading yourself. Like I always come back to self-leadership and how do you plan your day? Like we talked about this today already. It's like, how do you actually lead yourself into greatness? It's by doing the small things, the in-between moments. It's about taking that deep breath. It's about giving yourself that clarity and groundedness and mindfulness and listening to shows like this. So yeah, anchor and lead. And my
Anchor.
Instagram is anchor.lead. And then my personal is emilykThomas.com.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, as we are in the week of Thanksgiving, as we're recording here, I would love to lead us in the glowy daily reflection practice that we
Yeah,
spoke about just a little bit ago before we hopped on the call. Um,
I
I would
love
love
it.
to lead you in that, which starts with gratefulness. It is an acronym, and it stands for what are you grateful for? The G, L for lift up, something that may need attention, time, money, support for you or someone else. The O is for observe. We've talked about that mindfulness is really about observing, and it could be something in your surroundings. It could be something you notice inside of yourself. The W is for wholesome intention. And you and I both know that is a very important part of mindfulness. And that can be something as simple as I'm going to be present during, the rest of this conversation, or it could be I want to leave my company to X, could be your big want. And the Y is for you are, which is just a positive affirmation for yourself to lead yourself off to the rest of your day. So I'll start with the G. What are you grateful for, Emily?
I'm grateful for you. I mean, that's the easy one because it's just connecting with people like yourself that are doing big things in the world and reminding me of my purpose and hopefully helping you remind yourself of your greatness as well. I mean, I think what you're doing is really tremendous and it's courageous too. Like it's not safe. It's not like the easy route, getting on here, being on camera, using your voice. And so I'm grateful for you.
It's very sweet. Thank you. I'm wondering if you would share something you want to lift up. So something that might need resources, yourself or someone else.
Yeah. Something I would want resources in. Is that what you said?
Yeah, something that needs resources, either for yourself or maybe for on behalf
Yeah.
of someone else.
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I think for my career, I would love resources in helping me be on stage more. I don't really know. Um, yeah, that's something I'm trying to learn right now. So like anybody who is listening who needs a speaker, there we go.
And what are you speaking about? What are your topics?
Yeah, so the most common topics I speak about are understanding what you're doing and why you're doing it. Um, you know, I think it's really understanding the uncovering what you actually want to do, you know? So that's what I speak about. And then the other one that I just did a speech about this morning was about self-leadership and self-discipline. Um, I have I have a workbook that really does help support that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to gift that to your listeners.
What? Come again.
Yeah, no, I will. It's like it's something that's literally taken me years to create because I've iterated, refined all these things. But I want to give. If anybody wants to use something that'll help them power themselves forward, like I'll do that. Let's do that. I'll give you a link, and you guys can, or a special code or something in the show
Okay.
notes.
Excellent. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, you're spoiling us.
Yeah.
Well, if you need a speaker,
Oh yeah.
let's share the love, people. Um, the O is for observe. What's something that you're observing in this moment? What are you observing?
I'm observing how fragile life is. I mean, I think in the last week, it's been a lot of movement happening with health stuff, with my family, with some friends, with some neighbors. And so I'm observing this transition I'm taking into my 40s um, with such deep gratitude for the ability to be alive and be healthy. So that's what I'm observing is like, yes, it feels scary and like I wish I would have accomplished like 20 million things more by 40, but honestly, I'm not thinking that way anymore. I'm thinking about like I'm so glad for everything that have done, I've had a very full life. So,
Beautiful perspective. And a wise woman once told me it's never too late.
oh, I
The
love that.
I
Nice little
love
plug.
that. The W stands for wholesome intention. So that could be for this moment or your life, something bigger. What is your wholesome intention?
My wholesome intention is to really empower a million go-getters into using the breath as a common tool, mainstream tool, neural breathing particularly, and have it be their go-to. And then they start to see their world shift in front of their eyes. So I really feel that deeply that this is my calling and this is part of who I'm supposed to be right now. And um, so yeah, that's and it's not even about that's the thing is like it's not about me. It's about how can I help people come back to themselves in the world of distraction and a world of disconnection. How can we come back to ourselves, come back to each other, come back to what's important? And I think the neural breathing is the tool. So that's why I think I've had to kind of let go of all the other stuff to focus on this, to make this huge so that it really does have the impact it deserves.
I love that focus. And the last one is you are. This is something you get to say positively about yourself. It's just a little self-love. Sometimes I even give
Oh, to
myself a little
myself.
hug as I do it. And so you can say,
Mm,
Emily, you are.
ready. You are ready, girl. Yeah.
Love it.
There's like so much truth to that. It's like I always thought, there's just not going to be, I'm never going to be ready. I'm never going to have enough knowledge. I'm never going to have enough experience. And I think we really don't allow ourselves to do things because we get stuck in our head. And I think when you take the action and just go for it, it becomes so much easier than the actual process that we've thought out. So I work with go-getters to get it done. If you're an action taker, if you're a doer, if you are ready for your next chapter, let's chat. You don't even have to work with me, but let's just talk it out. Let's figure out what you want. You don't have to work with me full on, but like this is what it's about, is helping you see the path forward and then go get it.
Mm. Really appreciate all of your gifts, Emily, and in your time today. This has been a true delight. Thank you for your vulnerability
Oh, thank
and
you.
the inspirational, not only the stories that you've been telling us, but
Appreciate you. It's a great
connecting
question.
us. Yeah. 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 It's been really great.
So what's
Really
the
great
self-love
conversation.
you can do? Can you walk me through the process for you real fast? Do we have time? I want to hear yours.
So, my glowy, is that what you're
Mhm.
saying?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, sure. Um, I am grateful this week for having family to get together with. During
Mm.
COVID, we lost a lot of family members, very sadly, including my father, and
Mm.
it's that does wake you up, to what you do have, and so I'm working to just treasure those moments this week, really savor those. My lift up, um, you know what? We have an employee at Good Aim who got injured, and um, I just want to lift him up that he gets feeling better. We're going to find out
Mm.
if there needs to be some surgery and whatnot. So we're going to just lift him up. Hope he gets feeling better and heals up completely. So sending out good vibes there. I observe that this recording studio is really hot. So I'm going to be like super real and human. It is just really hot in here. I'm surprised I'm not sweating, but I'm noticing that. um, my wholesome intention is to lead mindfully and to lead from a place of groundedness, to be
Yeah.
the leader that um, yeah, that I've always wanted, to connect folks in a very authentic way. So they're inspired to do incredible work. That's a big wholesome intention, I realize,
You're
but
doing it already. So that's, yeah, that's amazing.
I love that. I love that. And the other part of my wholesome intention really is to um just raise awareness of what folks like you are doing in the realm of mindfulness and self-care, and connect folks who are like-minded, whether it's go-getters who are just want to work with you, or it could be other mindfulness practitioners that could be really valuable to your career and you to theirs. I just think that that's part of my calling as well. So
I
couple
agree.
different things at work there. I'm interested to see how it all plays out, but I'm here for it. I'm
I
here for
love
the
it.
journey. And my I'll give myself a little hug since you went there too. Mm,
Yeah.
Amy, you are loved.
You are.
Yes, yes. Um, Emily,
Mm.
thank you again. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share that. I haven't done that on the air in a while. So that was really great and cathartic for this week and a great way to end. So thank you for that. From my heart to yours, may you live with ease. This is your host, Amy Morgan, signing off. Today's podcast is sponsored by Good Aim Communications, a full service marketing agency based in Indianapolis, Indiana. To learn more, visit goodaimcommunications.com.